Hi guys, welcome back to the Thisissoul Shop YouTube channel. This video today is especially for aggressive inline skaters. And these are people who like to grind on their skates. Grinding is using your skates to slide over surfaces like handrails or curbs. And in this video we're going to discuss the groove in your frame that you're using for grinding, because there's a lot of differences. Watch this video to learn more. Right now we're recording here in our store in Amsterdam. If you want to get like a new frame for your aggressive skate, or if you want to get into aggressive skating, this is the right place for you. You can always come by during opening hours to check out all the frames on the market, because we have everything that aggressive inline skating offers. If you can't come to the store, then of course you can use our web shop, thisissoul.com. Here you find all the frames that we have in our store. You find them also online. And if you're not sure about what type of groove you should get for your skate setup, then check out the rest of this video, because I'm going to tell you everything there is to know. First, let's start with a little bit of a history. Back in the 80s and the early 90s, all skates kind of like looked something like this. By coincidence, and this is just a lucky thing for us aggressive skaters, these old school skates already had kind of a split in the middle, where most modern freestyle skates that are not meant for grinding, they don't have a split in the middle. The first grind was done in the beginning of the 90s, and they used this little opening here in between of the wheels to grind on. As you can see, there's literally no groove here, and that's the topic of today's video, because this is just a straight line. If you're grinding on a frame like this, one of the early type of skates, then these frames will wear down, and thus a groove is created. So that's how people started to make their own grooves in the frames, just by actually using the frames. The first grooves that were designed in the grind plates. And these are metal or plastic plates that you can put on top of the frame. Initially designed to strengthen the frame so that it wouldn't break as easy. But a nice benefit was that they had this little groove. And the groove helps you lock on a rail. The next step in the design was to actually thicken the walls of the skates and to make it so that smaller wheels could fit. Because of the smaller wheels, the groove also got bigger. And here you see in this early Roches M12, you see that the frame is still in a straight line actually. Later on, editions already had a groove included. And you see here in the center that it had like replaceable H block. And this is called the H block because if you look at it like this, it spells the letter H. Only 2 years later, after the Roches M12 came out, here the rollerblade Dirk came out. And with this rollerblade Dirk, you can actually see the first type of groove in an aggressive skate. Not only had the rollerblade Dirk a groove in the center, but it also had two cute little grooves in the front and the back. I think this is one of the only skates in history that has grooves here. This is actually quite new school again, to use the first and the third channel to do H-block type grinds on, like frontside and royale grinds. So we just talked a little bit about the history of the groove, but what is a groove actually for? If you're grinding on a rail, then the groove lets you lock on that rail and lets you not slip out. There's also a type of grind that is done on the side of a skate. That's called the sole plate. And if you do grinds on those, it's called the sole grind. So we're not going to talk about that today. Today is all about the grooves. There's a couple of different parameters to a frame groove. One is the split, and this is how far the center wheels are from each other. Another one is wheel protection, and that's how difficult it is to get wheel bite. The third one is the height of the groove. That's like how close to the foot the groove is. It can be really far or it can be really close to your foot. And the third one is the radius of the groove. So it can be really shallow or really tight. First, let's talk about the split. This right here is the modern day Roach SM12, and it has just like a classical frame. It's very generic, so you'll be fine with a frame like this if you skate it with only 2 wheels. And let's just measure the split real quick for you guys. The split is 10.5 centimeters. Funny thing about this split parameter is that if you get the skate in a different size, so if you get the size 49, or if you would skate the size 38, the split would still be the same. And this has to do also with the constraint of the UFS bolts. These are the mounting bolts. There's one here and one there. These are always at the same place, so they cannot really push the center wheels more outwards because of the mounting holes are always at the same spot. Here's another very popular frame, and this is the Kaiser Fluid 4, and this one has 12.2 centimeters. This is the Fedlight 3 frame, and let's see, this one has about the same as the Roaches. It has 10.2 centimeters. So these 3 types of frames that I just mentioned, they're quite similar in their rough dimensions. And this is because they all have the same constraint, naming the way the frame is mounted to the boot. And USD made a skate that has a workaround for this problem. That skate is the Aeon. The USD Aeon does not have any mounting bolts. So for the USD Aeon, they could take the center wheels and move it all the way to the outside. If you measure the distance of the split for the USD Aeon, then this is 14.5 centimeters in the biggest size. And if you take the smallest size, it's about 13.5. So for the USD Aeon, there actually is a difference for the smaller sizes and the bigger sizes. And the split is enormous. Another workaround solution to avoid being stuck behind the mounting holes in your design is to put the center wheels a little bit lower, and then you can move it more out, because then it's not as close to the boot. And that's what the Wish frame company did. You say Wish, but you write Oisi. It's really weird, but that's how it is. That's the frame that I am currently using. And for this one, the split is actually really, 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 really big, because it's 14.8 centimeters for the biggest size Wish frame. For the smaller size Wish frame, it's probably a little bit smaller. Some people would say, however, that having a split that is too big takes away of the feeling of the natural steering and rolling. So this is an argument against getting the biggest split that's on the market, like I am skating. So it's something you can consider. The next topic we're going to talk about is wheel protection. What you don't want is when you're grinding that your middle wheel is touching the top deck of what you're grinding. So if you lean too much forward, then one of your middle wheels will touch. The wheels are of course grippy, and then you're gonna fall. That's why in frame design, now some of the frames are getting wheel protection. This is a frame that's like the classic type frame, and it has no wheel protection. That's why it's also not good for skating flat, and you see that it's set up as an anti-rocker setup. So this is with grind wheels. But if you want to skate flat with 4 wheels, then it's really nice if the wheels are a little bit protected. All the frames that are designed in the last couple of years offer some type of wheel protection. And for you guys at home, you never know like how this really works and how good this wheel protection is. So my idea right now is to just test all the most popular frames on the market for you guys so that you can see the comparison. Let's go. So what we're gonna do right here is we're gonna pretend that this is a curb that you're grinding on. And if you're grinding a curb, you're gonna lean forward at a certain point, and then at a certain point your wheels will touch the top deck of the curb. And this is something that you do not want, because then the wheel will have grip and you're gonna fall, remember? All right, so I'm gonna take a lot of these frames and skate setups, put them on the curb and tilt them a little bit forward, always in an angled position, and then see at what angle the wheels will touch. So let's start with this old school Roaches FCO, and I'm gonna put it on it like this, pretend I'm grinding, and then tilting forward, then you see that the wheels are touching. But this one is actually having really big wheels, so if you put small wheels in here and you're gonna lean really deep, you can actually grind on this. Like this one, it's a comparable boot, but it has smaller wheels. So let's pretend we're grinding, and then if you lean backwards, you see that you can lean all the way backwards, and then that the wheels are not even grinding, and then you get into something that's called a cess slide. Cess sliding is when you're sliding on your boot or on the side of your frame. This is actually something that's really nice if you have a setup which makes it easy to cess slide. That means it's really hard to get a wheel bite. This is called cheating, because this skate is an anti-rocker setup. An anti-rocker comes from that it's the opposite of a rocker. With a rocker setup, you're really maneuverable. With an anti-rocker setup, the middle wheels are higher, so you're not maneuverable at all. So it's really bad for riding, but for grinding, it's really nice because you don't have the middle wheels. These are grind wheels, so they're super hard, so you're not gonna stick on it. Let's see how it works out in our test. If you go like this, you grind, and if you lean forward, then you see that the grind wheels are touching first, and then you can stand in a really flat angle with your foot without having any wheel bite. This is the Kaiser Fluid floor frame. Here we have the ground control Federlite free frame. This is maybe the most popular aggressive skate frame on the market right now. Let's see how it grinds. We get into the groove, then we lean forward, and then boom, it's really nice. You can have quite a flat angle on it. Cool. This right here is the Kaiser Fluid 5 frame. This is the newest Kaiser Fluid frame, and it's the first fluid frame that's not an anti-rocker frame. So this is a flat frame. You see that it has some nice wheel protection. So let's see how the wheel protection protects the wheels. We hold it on the curb, then lean forward, and then you get, actually with this frame, you get into a perfect cess slide without the wheels touching. That is, in my opinion, ideal, and at least for grinding it is. And one of the reasons is because it has really thick frame walls. So Kaiser Fluid 5, really nice for grinding and cess sliding. This is the classic Roaches M12 frame. It's very basic, and the skate has a small sole plate. So the small sole plate makes that you're in a deeper angle, and that lifts up the wheels more. So let's see how that goes with the wheel bite. Grinding, leaning forward, and then the front wheel touches. You can grind in this angle, but this is also like an anti-rocker frame, so yeah, it's always easy with anti-rocker. Here you have the same frame, but on the Roaches 5th Element boot, and this sole plate is a lot wider, so the angle that your foot's gonna have is gonna be less deep, so you're gonna have wheel bite earlier. Let's grind and then lean forward, and then boom, here's the wheel bite. Here we have the famous USD Aeon skate with the big split we talked about in the beginning of the video, and let's see how it grinds. If you grind and you lean forward, then you get wheel bite, but the angle is still pretty okay. For the other tests, I put together some frame setups. They're all flat frames, and I put in 60mm wheels in all of them. First, let's try a basic frame. This is like a kind of like a generic frame. This is the 50-50 frame, 50-50 balance, and it's set up with 60mm wheels. The cool thing about this frame though is that you also get juice blocks with it. These are kind of like an alternative for the middle wheels. They're like a little piece of plastic that you can insert instead of the middle wheels to ride it anti-rocker with. All right, let's see. I'm gonna put it in like an average angle and then grind on it, lean forward, and then you see that the wheel bite is pretty quick in a pretty steep angle already. Next up is the ground control mega frame. This one actually comes with 64mm wheels, but you can always put in smaller wheels. You can put in 60mm wheels in this one, but in all the frames that we just tested, you can always put in smaller wheels. And putting in smaller wheels will always make that you have less wheel bite. Let's see how this one holds up. Put it in a generic angle and then lean forward. Boom. It's actually protecting it quite nice. This is the Sola frame. It has really small frame walls, so this protects the wheels less as well. The nice thing is that the groove is really high, so it's really far from your foot, and that's a good thing. Let's put it in an angle and then lean forward, and then you have wheel bite pretty quickly. These are the frames that I'm skating, and these are the Wish frames. There's two types of Wish frames. There's the normal Wish chassis and the medium chassis, which is like, it's not per se smaller, it is smaller, but the main difference is that the ride height, so how high you're riding, is lower. So if you're mounting this underneath your skate, you're lower to the ground, and also the groove is deeper. So with this one, the groove is really far from the sole plate, and with the medium one, you're a little bit closer to your sole plate. Let's see how they are. If you test them, put them in an angle and then lean forward, and then there's hardly any wheel bite until now. That's also because of the big split. This is the frame I'm skating myself and I really like it. This is the medium frame. I'm gonna put it on the ledge, pretend to grind with it, lean forward, and then boom. Only when I'm about completely straight with the frame, the wheel will touch. So this is, in my opinion, perfect because it gives a lot of room to play with. And then the last frame we're gonna test is the freestyle aggressive frame. It has a really big groove. The nice thing about this Caltic frame is that if you held it in this angle, even when your frame is straight, so it's not tilted, the wheel is still not touching. So this is really, really well designed. But the downside is that you're not always like this. Sometimes you're leaning a little bit more like that in this position, and then the wheel touches instantly. Also, when you're in an angle, there's no way to avoid it when you're not in this position. And this actually is a quite steep angle as well. So if you compare this, you're like leaning a lot backwards if you're standing like this. And as soon as you're getting a little bit more straight, then the wheel will touch. So maybe you would think that it's easier to grind with the frame like that, but actually it's you're more likely to get wheel bite with this frame. So we just compared all these different grooves, and you see that we put the frames in a certain angle. Me, myself, I have a certain angle that I really prefer standing in, and I always try to create this in my setups. So, for example, I used to skate the Valo skates a lot, and then I always had a Kaiser Fluid 3 frame, which has a really deep groove, so the groove's really close to your foot, and it gave me a certain angle when I was grinding my Royals. Then I switched to Racers, which has a really wide sole plate, and then Royals were kind of like super easy suddenly because of the angle the sole plate and the frame create. That's why with Racers it's good to have a frame where the groove is further away from my foot, so that the angle now is still kind of like the same. So you can consider the relationship between the width of your sole plate and the height of your groove. If you have a really wide sole plate, you can get a groove that's farther away, like for example the wish frames. If you have a really small sole plate, for example if you have like a Seba skate or a Roches M12 or a Dem skate, then maybe it's nicer to get a frame with a groove that's a little bit closer to your foot. Then the last topic of the day is the radius of the groove. Radius is how big of a circle the groove creates if you draw the circle complete. You can have a groove that's like has a really tight radius, like this Fluid 5 frame has a really small radius. It has a really small circle here. Then this freestyle frame here has a really wide circle here. See that? Really big. A common myth that I want to get out of the aggressive inline skate world is that a freestyle aggressive inline skate frame like this is easier to grind on, because I see this a lot with beginners coming in the store wanting like an easy frame to grind on and then thinking like the bigger the groove the better. But actually the bigger the radius, the easier it is to slip out of your grind. And I actually had this happening to me when I was grinding a reel, that one of my foots just went like that and I fell really hard. So after that, because I was skating a freestyle aggressive frame at that moment, after that I never used them again. So my advice is to get a frame that has a good lock. To get a good lock, the groove should be about the same as the rail that you're grinding. That's when it locks the best. Do you prefer a wider groove like I just talked about, or do you prefer a smaller groove like maybe on the Sola frames? Let me know in the comments of this video and we can discuss preferences over there. We make a new video like this every week, so if you like videos like this, consider subscribing and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye. God damn it, that was almost perfect, but it was fine, right? In the beginning of the quite retro, no, not quite retro, but get into the groove. That should be the song of this video. Madonna. First, let's talk about the split. Yes, just a little bit difference. How straight you can be on them. How, yeah, that's it. How straight. Wait, I think we need to scratch this. The groove is a lot. Hoi. Wat een gek. Hey joh. Every week on our YouTube channel.